Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Can everyone hear us? Can you hear us in the back? Are we good? We're good? All right. Okay, 3:30. All right, let's start. All right, thank you guys for coming. This is the panel for we are doing the AI. Hold on, let me get my notes, sorry. We're doing the Activating Artists and Agency in an Age of AI. A lot of A's there. We have 3 guests with us, 2 in person and 1 on Zoom. And I'm going to introduce them first, and then we'll do some questions, and then we'll open it up for the rest of you after we do a little bit of discussion here on our own. So our first guest is Ace Continuado, who is an illustrator whose storytelling talents come through via dynamic visuals. His career began in 2011 with credits in small print work. After developing his talents in the DC Talent Program, that's DC Comics, Ace has gone on to create art for books published by Dark Horse Comics, Zenescope Entertainment, Titan Comics, Dynamite, and Image Comics. Ace recently worked with Eric Heisler, the writer of the critically acclaimed movie Arrival, for his comic debut Shaper. And Ace's most recent work has been with Titan Comics on the Conan the Barbarian series and the Heat Seeker series, sorry. Our second guest is JC Gonzalez. He is a visual, interdisciplinary, and community-based artist based in Salinas. He is the founder of Urban Arts Collaborative, a socially conscious nonprofit arts organization. Through his work, he empowers young people through art, fostering well-being, creativity, and leadership. He teaches fine arts at Hartnell College and received the Luminary Award from the Arts Council of Monterey County in 2019 and the California Arts Council Fellowship in 2023. Since 2018, JC has been a public arts commissioner for the city of Salinas. And then on Zoom, we have Lucy Ziegler, who brings over 20 years of experience in design, innovation, and strategy. A certified futurist, she co-created and led McKinsey's design and foresight practice and founded TBD Futures to help leaders build strategic agility in uncertain times and shape a future of choice. Her career spans startups, global corporations, and academia, including serving as a founding faculty member at the Dubai Institute of Design and Innovation. She is currently Senior Director at Publicis Sapient, did I say that right? Mm-hmm. Where she helps businesses stay grounded in human needs in the age of AI and machines. Is there anything, let's go one by one. I'll start with Ace on my left. Ace, is there anything I left out? Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Oh no, that was very accurate. Thank you. Was born and raised in Philippines, moved to Salinas and all that stuff. But starting with art, I never stopped drawing since I was a kid and tried my hand in storytelling with comics, and I never stopped since then.
Okay, how about you, JC?
Can you repeat the question?
Can you introduce us a little more, anything that I might have left out?
My name is JC, and I started doing art at the age of 7. At that time, I was living with my grandmother in Guanajuato, Mexico. And when I came back to Salinas, I enrolled myself in art classes in middle school, and I follow up through a group of artists called Hijos del Sol in Salinas. So I grew up in a very nurturing art community. And I always knew that I wanted to teach art, and I wanted to be an artist. So that was not a doubt. So I just always felt like that was me.
And Lucy, how about yourself?
I feel like I'm the oddball here because I'm more of a corporate kind of consulting kind of career rather than being a full-time artist. I wish I could be a full-time artist. It was definitely my childhood dream to be an artist. And then on the side, I have some artistic projects. I write science fiction, and I'm a singer-songwriter, or I should say I was a singer-songwriter earlier. So I dabble in activity, and I try to bring it into my work as much as possible.
Awesome. So yeah, we got a very well-rounded panel up here. We have, artists spanning different genres and different mediums. The first question that I want to ask specifically is, what inspired you to pursue a career in art? And what were your first steps into starting that career? We'll start with JC.
That's a very good question. I always felt like moving away from Salinas when I went to San Diego State University, and I came back to Salinas, I observed that there was a lack of support for visual artists, and also not just the lack of funding for visual artists, but also I think that what I observed was that not just the support, but also the spaces to create art. So I founded Urban Arts Collaborative in 2012. And it was because I saw that Salinas had a big community of graffiti artists, and it was becoming a challenge for graffiti artists to express themselves because it was seen as not good, like not the proper medium. So I did my thesis and decriminalizing graffiti art. And right after that, I worked with the City of Salinas City Council members, and then we formed the first Arts Commission in 2017, and then I became part of the commission in 2018. So I saw myself also like someone who can connect artists, community, but also that the Mexican Americans and indigenous people and people of color deserve to have better spaces and also leadership in places of influence and power, because we need to create our own councils. We need to create, we are the ones who are creating culture constantly, and I think we are the most defunded.
And then Lucy, how about you? How did you begin your pursuit of art as a career?
Well, I actually, I wouldn't say I have a career in art, but I have had a career in design, kind of related. So I went to a college in China for industrial design, but it was a more of an engineering leaning college. But when I chose a graduate program to go to in the United States, I purposefully chose a school that's an art school. It's called the University of the Arts in Philadelphia, because I wanted to find that balance between, engineering and art for my design work. And like I said, I always wanted to be more creative, growing up wanting to be an artist. And then after graduated with a master's in design from an art school, I started designing physical products and later expanded into digital products and other kinds of design. But yeah, that's how I started. And then to really date myself, to make sure that you guys all know I'm very old, my first job out of design school was to design cell phones. That was before the iPhone came out.
Wow.
Wow.
All right. Ace, what were your first steps into starting your career?
Well, when I was in the Philippines, I was in a fine arts major in a university. And one time, this Filipino comic artist came over. His name is Will Sportacio. He's very famous. He did X-Men and all that stuff. I was actually very impressed on how he drew fast. And so I started talking to him, and he started like a little mentorship program. So I signed up for it. But eventually, life happened. I did not follow through with that. But when I came over to the States, social media, right? I posted something online, that artwork. It's just a fan art of, I think it was Thor and it got a lot of feedback. And then they were messaging me, how much do I charge? I go, I can make money out of this? So that's how I began and pursued not just pinups and superheroes, but I actually decided to learn more about how to make comics and how to actually tell a story in one page in different panels. So it's not just me drawing figures of flying superheroes, So that's what I love now about comics, is telling the story. And so I'm still telling stories up to now.
Cool. All right, the next question. This goes with the theme. The theme of this year's event kind of seems to suggest that maybe there's a conflict between art and AI, because it's called Activating Artisan Agency in an Age of AI. What are your thoughts on AI and art. Are they complementary? Are they conflicting? Is there a way we can have both? Or is this just not even the right question to ask? We'll start with Lucy.
Okay, well, it's a great question, and I've heard this question being asked a lot. By the way, before I get into it, is there a way for me to see the room? Because I'm basically staring at a blank screen. If
Let's
it's
see if
technically not
we
possible,
can
that's
try to
okay.
have Brian flip the laptop around. She wants to see all of your faces. We have a lot of
I
people here in the room.
appreciate it, because I would love to see you guys' faces when I talk and when I take questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Hello. Hello. Hi. So I don't think there is a question anymore about whether or not we will have AI, because we do and we will continue to have AI. And then there shouldn't be a question about whether or not we're going to have art. I definitely hope art is not going away. And I think AI and art will find a way to coexist. And this question reminds me of a debate I had in grad school, and you guys already know how old I am. We had a seminar in grad school, and we discussed, what's going to happen about digital getting in the way of art. And and I think we discussed the question from all kinds of angles, and then me personally, I landed on the understanding that since the very early days of humans creating any art, we were using very primitive tools like, I don't know, rock and, dirt and a little stick that we pick out from the forest floor, and we start to scribble something, and we start to draw a shape, and we start to draw an animal, and we start to use mineral-based paint to make it more permanent. And then, when we are in the digital age, we start to use Photoshop or Illustrator or Corel Draw at the time. Is that actually different, or is this just a new tool that we're using to create art? Or should we just treat it as a new tool? And I wonder if we could try to use this kind of logic to think about AI. Can AI be a tool? And then can that tool help artists or even maybe include designers to make better products, art, any kind of outcomes that we're hoped for? And then another question around that is, what is our moat, right? If we think about art career or design career or any kind of career as a business, just like a startup, if you have a startup idea, you need to understand what your moats are, which means how you can defend your position, how you can be very unique that other people can't just copy you. I think that logic applies to being an artist and having an artist career. So what is our moat? Is it our artistic process? Or is it our personality that we express throughout our work? Is it our lived experiences as humans? And which parts of those can be replicated by AI or replaced by AI? What parts of it cannot be? And then we can tackle this problem with some valid angles. I'll stop here, and I would love to hear what you guys think.
All right, Ace, how about you? How do you feel about AI in art?
Well, first off, I am using an iPad, but there's no AI help. I still use my pencil, same as you, and I still draw figures from my mind. Now, as far as AI is concerned, let me, just a few days ago, I posted something online. It's Batman versus Bane, Bane. So it's a pretty dynamic. They're fighting. It's a violent look. But one of my friends, who is not an artist, posted a reply on it colored in seconds. And I replied with a wow icon. So, and then he continued posting more of my art colored in AI. So I messaged him, buddy, you better stop, because a lot of artists are going to get upset. Because although it looks cool, but I believe that it lacked the imperfections of a human artist. Because sometimes the imperfections in coloring or in art per se gives it identity. And when it becomes AI, it loses that. I'm not sure if you guys compared an AI image versus an actual painted artwork. There are imperfections. There are like loose stuff, but although they look really nice, but for me personally, AI lacks personality. It loses the artist itself. So as far as having AI as a tool, that's great. I mean, but as long as you don't, if I may, you don't overstep the boundaries of your creativity, because you'll lose it. You'll just depend on, oh, he can draw hands with spread hands like this. Oh, okay, and then you'll lose that touch. So, I believe AI can be a tool, and that's all it is, and it's not an actual medium for me. A tool, yes, not a medium. Hope that helps.
And JC, what are your thoughts?
Yes, thank you for the question. I'm a traditional artist. Like, I do all of my paintings by hand, and most of my ideas come from my mind, from my heart, from my experiences as a human being. So I think that while AI can generate images of paintings and murals, I think it does lack the human being element. I feel like part of the reason why I insist in children and young people and all kinds of people doing traditional art like painting and drawing and watercolors is because there is a lot of benefits that process help us in our mental health, and also help us redefine our identities. And also, I also question how we as a society support tools like AI, but for the benefit of humanity. I think about the artists who have multiple disabilities and cannot use their hands, cannot use other parts of our body. So I see that they could benefit from AI, but I also see that traditional art is not going to end. I think it's going to either become more valuable because it's going to, it is a human being creating all these pieces of art, but it's also, but I also don't see like a competition. I think that AI could be beneficial if we as a society decide that we want to support those applications that are beneficial, and then decide from that. But I know that personally, I don't think that traditional art is going to end. I just think it's going to flourish more and it's going to become more valuable.
So JC, you said a couple of things in there that really kind of sparked some questions for me. Because earlier you said that you were advocating for graffiti art. And I think with social media right now, everyone in this room knows who Banksy is, right? Banksy's graffiti art has sort of somehow become fine art in a way because it's selling for millions in auctions, and that started street art. And then even this week or last week, his identity, everyone now knows who he is. So I feel like, in a way, social media is bringing us back to appreciating the things that we used to take for granted, like graffiti art. Can you speak about that, and do you agree with that, or do you think social media is worse for art? Do you think it's in a worse place because now we have Banksy selling for millions. Is that where we should be?
Well, I think that Banksy is selling for millions because he put art in a very interesting perspective where graffiti was seen as vandalized. Graffiti art belongs in the public venue. It is a way of resisting, it is a way of being, and that's why he pursued it, and that's why it happened. He made it for all of us too, you know, and it is eventually the artist himself or herself that decides what is art, right? And how it is produced and how it is transformed. With the thing is that artificial intelligence can be legitimized as art by the artist. However, like I said, traditional art, they are like the human aspects that cannot be traded for technology, right? So it can be contradicting, but also I see that throughout history we have seen all of this. I don't know if you remember Marcel Duchamp when he decided in the 1900s, 1970s, 1917, I believe, when he decided that a urinal, like a regular urinal, is art, and he put it in an exhibition, and he legitimized that found objects became, art. So I think we're seeing that with artificial intelligence now, and it's not going to stop.
Mm-hmm. And then, kind of moving into the future, because Lucy, it says in your bio you're a certified futurist, and you've talked a lot about design so far. And Ace said something interesting. He said that he likes to see the imperfections of art, but I feel like design, especially where we're at now, is about perfecting the things that are created for humans. Do you agree with that, or do you think that there should be imperfections, or is that like, you know, as a designer, what are you searching for in the pursuit of art?
It's a great question. Yes, I am a certified futurist. I love trying to look into what possibly can happen in the future. And this is a very exciting and also sometimes scary time to really try to look into where we're headed as humans, and with some of the decisions that people are making, and maybe making more of those decisions in the near future that could lead to a place where might not be very good for everyone. But there are also possibilities that we can get to a much better place than today, thanks to technologies, including AI. So I always look at it with the lens that a lot of it's still in our control, where we're headed in terms of how AI will help us or disrupt us in the coming years. And from the angle of being a creative, being a designer, we actually have a lot of debate in our field. For example, for my line of work, I do customer experience design, and I work with teams to do that. And we typically would create artifacts to help people come up with great ideas for new products or new services, and how we help people create ideas. We would create those artifacts such as a persona or a user journey map to really visualize and tell the stories from the human side. And we are, as designers, we're always advocating for humans. We'll work on a very multidisciplinary team where we have engineers who can make things happen, make things feasible, and we have business people who would look at whether or not this feature or this product or this service would be viable for the business. Can we make money? Is there a big enough of a market? Would people buy this, right? So the designers on the team are always advocating for the human needs to say, well, this doesn't make their life easier. We should do it this way. We've done human, customer research or user research, and here are the data. They are telling us that this is a great pain point that we really need to focus on and solve it. So traditionally, in the last 20 years of service design, customer experience design, user experience design, that's the role that designers have been playing. And now with AI, we've seen in the field that people who are not designers, who have not been doing researchers, who have not been talking to customers to really understand their pain points, with empathy, with understanding, with all the details and the nuances, they would go to AI and say, hey, ChatGPT, can you generate a persona for me? Can you generate a user journey map for me? And then they will use that as their base and say, here are the product features we should ship. And there is a huge problem about that, right? Because what AI can generate, those large language models can generate, is very generic, very average kind of things that are not based in your business's, this product's particular users. They're not real. And what they can generate, or even sometimes you can use AI to generate ideas, they are also very generic and not original at all, because it's a language model. It can only look at what's already existing there. It can only regurgitate what other people have done. So in a way, not only is it is plagiarizing other people's work that's out there on the internet in the open, and it doesn't give you anything original, unique, to give you a competitive edge. So I think the design field has been grappling at this problem, trying to figure out, again, what's our moat, right? What makes our work unique and uniquely valuable? How do we convince other people the value of our work? How do we make sure that not only selfishly we don't want to be replaced by AI, but that this type of work shouldn't be completely replaced by AI? I think we're in the process of trying to figure it out. AI is becoming more and more popular and powerful every week. You go on LinkedIn, you go on those forums of designers and all those AI tool platforms and companies that are launching new things. Claude today just launched something called Claude Design. So I haven't tried it, but I'm really curious to see what they're trying to replace in the design process versus what they're not trying to. And Claude is one of the better platforms that actually try to be empathetic and human-centric. So we're learning as the future unfolds.
And then going to ACE, you started off traditional media when you're drawing comic books, but I've seen some of your new artwork. You're doing a little bit more like using digital tools.
Yes.
Describe why you would use one over the other, and then as we move forward, because you said you had a friend who just colored it instantly. What's the temptation like to do things instantaneous? Is there a benefit to that in your profession, or do people appreciate the hours that you spent working on something?
Well, first off, I'm using digital only for pages, because we have deadlines that are looming right behind me all the time. So I draw whenever I can, wherever I can. So let's just say I'm on waiting for a flight. So that 2-3 hours I would be drawing, but I can't bring my drawing table. I can't bring my 11x17 artboard. I would actually use my iPad to draw and be productive, because, like I said, deadlines. But I still prefer traditional art. So what happens is with those digital drawings that I do, they are not finished. They are layouts. They're very loose, and when I actually draw the pages, I don't have to think about it anymore because the thought process, that's the hardest part for me. As far as telling the story, camera angles, the size of the panels, enough room for the word balloons, all of that gets eliminated because I use digital. But once I actually have that already planned out and mapped out, I print it out and I draw over what I laid out. So it's still very much traditional. It just helps me eliminate a little bit more time. So as far as the, what was the other?
The temptation of
The
using
temptation, I have none. No, there's a joy in picking up a pencil and ink, and you would relate the way the brush goes against the canvas or the paper. It's a human experience to draw something like that, and I believe, and I do know for a fact that comic enthusiasts do appreciate that than seeing something done digitally. So, because I do, when I go to comic conventions, I get commission requests, and they are all almost, most of them are happy. Most of them, if not all, that we put our hearts into what they requested. If they requested Spider-Man, and I would draw Spider-Man, not just standing like that, but I would actually draw him very animated or dynamic. So our clients, our friends, they do appreciate that because they can always copy and paste from internet. Or, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
All right, do we have any questions from the audience? We have a question over there.
Yeah, actually, to your point about not your temptation of using AI, but the publisher temptation. For example, the publishers like DC and Marvel are trying to reduce their costs going out. We just saw the Marvel just let go of a lot of their staff.
Yes.
How concerned is the artist community, especially colorists and letterers, who rely on this for their jobs, and they're not the essential, like you're the storyboard and penciler, but the inkers and the colorists.
Well, they are very concerned, actually, to be honest, being replaced. But we do hope, and we still do believe, because the ones that are running the creative higher ups at DC or Marvel, Titan or Image Comics, they were as old as I am or older, and they do believe in traditional work, that it will not lose the substance of the art itself. Because yes, it is sad that I heard about Marvel losing a lot of talent. Makes you wonder what they're going to replace that with. But we don't really know if they replace talent or just regular employees. I'm not too sure. I'm not informed about that. But I do believe that the temptation to actually do that, you gotta fight it. We gotta fight it, because if you give in, then you'll give in to another temptation, then you give in to another temptation. So just use the AI as a tool, and for you to develop your craft. That's, hope that clears it up.
So JC, you're on councils. Do you see AI sort of encroaching, and do you see as like an issue when you're, talking to maybe your board members? Do you see AI as something we have to discuss as a problem that's encroaching, or is it more of a we need to prepare for this and kind of maneuver around it?
I think that I mean in the different networks that I'm part of, in general, like people know that AI is here and is not going anywhere. So I think that they are preparing. I see that a lot of young people that are pursuing careers in the arts, they need to take more digital arts and concepts and applications because it is another form of art. However, I see, at least in Salinas and throughout the Bay Area, I see that more movements around traditional art are coming out because they know that there is an opportunity for traditional artists to contribute and be in fusion with the AI. So I think that people know that AI is here, and people know that a way to channel all of that is to become part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Lucy, does AI go into your workflow at all when you're designing or when you're meeting with clients? Do they give you references that are like, I did this in AI, do something like that? How much is AI starting to encroach upon your own workflow and your own work?
Yeah, a lot. Depending on what I'm working on, I do a lot of research for my futurist work. I used to have a team several years ago of business analysts working with me doing research manually, and now I don't need that team. Now I work with my AI interns, sometimes I call them. So that's definitely part of it. I use AI for analyzing data, analyzing spreadsheets and data sets. I use it for my writing. English is not my first language, and sometimes I feel insecure that I might have some typos in there, and I'm not using the right analogy. So I sometimes ask AI for help. Let me think. For the design process, I think yes, I'm also using AI to generate drafts. Sometimes to try to get myself a head start. My team uses that as well. But we're not at the point of just asking AI to generate the final deliverables for clients. Right? So we're not there yet. We still need a lot of human touch. Editing, redirecting, going back and forth. AI hallucinates in their research, depending on the tool you're using and how you train it. It does a lot of fabricated facts and data in there, which is horrible. I also use, actually, we're trying to build tools that are more trained on a smaller set of materials and data instead of the broad, large language models. So what the potential tools can do is to say, let's say we're designing an app for a bank. We could potentially ask AI to comb through all those banking apps that my company, my team has developed in the last 5 years, and the data about the adoption, about all the user engagement and how long they spend on the landing page and all those things, and give us best practices based on those data to say, well, when you have a button, I'm making it up, right? But when you have a button above the middle line of the screen versus below the middle line of the screen, you had a 18% higher rate of click-through, for example. And then we know when we make the design decisions, it's based on real data, based on other banking apps that we've designed. So that has been helpful as a direction. I can see more and more of work being done by AI. The hope is that we will remove a lot of the heavy lifting, tedious work, aligning the elements on the screen. If we're talking about narrowly design, like designing an app, right? That kind of tedious stuff being taken care of by AI, freeing the brain cells of designers to do the more valuable work that AI cannot do. For example, talking to more users and making, coming up with new ideas and testing new ideas, instead of being bogged down, chained to the computer hours on end just to move pixels. So that has been helpful, and I can only see that getting better. But the caveat I would make is that it's at the risk of crossing that line into a bunch of products being made that are so generic and so average because they're largely AI generated, without human touch, without originality. It's just gonna be blah. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out.
Question?
Yeah, I actually had a question from mostly earlier regarding AI. You mentioned more ethical human involvement in the language. Does that act as a negative for you sometimes? Because it hallucinates more as a result because of the human corruption. It doesn't speak in as binary a language anymore. It doesn't give you yes or no. It often hedges its language when I've interacted with it.
Sorry, is that a question for me? I could barely hear you. That's a question for me.
So Lucy, the question is, making AI more human, is that a negative? Because right now it's more binary, it's kind of more geared towards giving you the answer that maybe you're looking for, as opposed to, and let me know if I'm getting your question wrong.
Well, earlier, when I tried it 2 years ago to now, the language has become more, less binary, and it becomes more hedging its language and not delivering a yes or no answer.
Interesting.
And then it hallucinates an answer that isn't pertinent to the question.
Yeah, that's very interesting. It reminds me of something I just saw today online, talking about whether or not we should make robots look and feel more like humans. And how is that creepy or is that helpful? So the post was talking about how we have this human tendency to feel more related to an object if it looks cute and human-like, like a doll or even more like a human. And then we develop trusts and empathy towards it, which my personal belief is this is not very healthy. There are a lot of biological inclinations that we have. For example, we have the whites of our eyes, much larger, much more visible than other mammals, and which makes it a lot easier for us when we are in person looking at each other's eyes to identify micro emotions and to really understand what that person really means or what feels. I think that's very uniquely human, and to pretend, and among other things that are very, very human, and to try to pretend a robot or an AI in a digital format are more like us than they actually are. I think that's lying and is deceiving. I think there are already cases of people using AI for things that are beyond probably the creators of AIs intended them to be used. For example, a very large amount of queries, conversations with AI are emotional support, almost like therapy conversations. And some of them, we've heard some cases where it didn't end well because these tools are not trained to do that, and they're not human. We shouldn't use them for that purpose, even though you can't stop people from using it that way. I know I can only say personally, I don't believe by design AI should pretend to be more like humans. They should be what they are, and they should be treated as what they are. Yeah, I think for the sake of integrity of humans, also for those unintended consequences that could happen when we treat them other than what they are.
So JC, I wanted to kind of bring that to you. There's a band that I've been watching on YouTube, and they're just so out there. They're called Engine du Poitrine. And they've got these crazy costumes, and they're playing microtones, and they're trying to do something so far out there. And people are saying that people are gravitating towards this because of AI, because AI is kind of just a mirror of what we've already done. Do you see artists, because I think we talked about competition in AI, against AI. Do you see artists trying to, quote unquote, compete with AI by just trying to be so far away from AI? Do you see that?
I think the fact that AI exists now, I think it is already happening. I think that they are going to compete, because I think even though we don't see like each other, like I don't see my peers as I'm competing with them, but there exists like this essence of like I'm my own critique, so I want to excel, I want to. And I think a lot of times that's what propels, that's like the life force of creativity and creative expression, that we humans by nature are very curious. So I think it is going to happen, where there is going to be competition. I think that I see that artists are taking advantage of the technology that already exists, and they will want to create, my concern is that while AI already exists, I see that problems and issues with intellectual property and also with copyrights, because as we know, social media, we put all of our artworks that are original piece of artworks, and so because of AI now, it can generate and it can copy, I think, but I also think that it is already happening.
Okay. And Ace, we talk about visual mediums and AI, but AI can also write songs, and it can also write stories. Say someone writes a story and they say, this is generated by AI, but I want you to draw it. Is there a certain level of competition with that where you're going to have to try to outperform the story, or does that have any bearing on the way you produce your artwork now in an age of AI?
Well, first off, competing with AI is, I don't think there's, well, let me put it this way. Creatively, there's no competition. AI, we all know they're basing their data from already an existing piece of artwork, that already exists. So as far as artists like us, we start from blank. They don't start from blank. They gather information. But us as humans, artists, we start from a clean slate of paper or canvas. Even on your iPad, it's blank, and then you start drawing. So that AI does not have that. So for me, there's no competition as far as creativity goes. As far as competing with commercially, yes, because I have met a writer, and he said in honesty that he's not as good as a writer, but he has ideas. So he actually used AI for his ideas, and he wrote a novel. And I think it was Amazon novel. And he even did his own cover for his book, which is AI, like dragons and stuff. Well, this man had no money. you know, he wants to make a living. I mean, who are we to say that, you know, you can't do that because you can't create? We can't stop him. I mean, he needs to feed his family. So, but that is also on a personal level. For me, I will not do that, but I have the capability to create my own. He doesn't, but you know, as far as competing, I'm not sure if that you want to call that as a competition. It may be more of convenience for him or out of need, but I do frown upon on an established artist using AI, like let's just say a writer, a really good writer, and he wrote his novel, and he would probably have someone draw the cover or paint the cover for him. That would be nice. But sometimes, you know, financially, especially these days, he probably would rely on AI to do his cover for his book. And I cannot judge him for that. Yeah.
I just have a couple of questions. Yes.
Well, I'd like to add to some of that because I think we need to draw a distinction between commercial and those who create for the sake of creating.
Yes.
Because, I mean, Spotify is already creating pop music. But if you want to take a step further, they've been using fake singers in movies since the 1950s. And they've, you know, there was a Milli Vanilli scandal. I mean, but, you know, people believed it until it came out. And the point is that I think with all AI, and again, I'm a person who creates his own music. I don't need AI to create my music. But there are a lot of people that say, I need 10 seconds of Bach. And they can create 10 seconds of Bach-sounding music. But if they try to create 20 minutes of it, it's going to start to fall apart because there's only so far it goes. So that's why I don't fear AI, because the commercial's always been commercial. It's about making money. It's not about art.
Yes.
You hope it will work, but many times it doesn't.
But there is already, in the reality of our capitalist, corporatist existence, my concern is it's already happening, that people are already losing their jobs to AI. And in the commercial art world, the people who make the decisions are making decisions based on efficiency and profit.
Yes.
So in a world where all decisions are made based on efficiency and profit, I guess my question to you is, how do we counter that, one? And what is your advice to young people? Because young people today are thinking, you know, we can easily say that. We have jobs. We you know, have had a life. But a lot of young people coming into this weird world where they don't know what the future will be, what do you say to them? How would you advise them when their jobs are already being taken by, you know, AI and automation?
You want to take this one, JC, or Professor JC?
Well, I know that traditional art, and maybe one of my recommendations can be that do not stop doing art. You know, use all of your senses, because the foundation of all of arts is the human capacity to have ideas and materialize those ideas. But it's also because historically that's how we started doing art. It started with graffiti, you know, with writing, and you know, and experimenting. So I think that's what AI does not have. So I think that the process of creation, the process of developing your critical thinking, your creative mind, it cannot be replaced by AI. So my recommendations is to continue growing in resources for traditional artists, but also be relevant to where we are right now, where we become aware of AI, but also learn the applications, you know, learn how use the resources that already are, because that's where we're going. And it's just going to continue growing. But like I said, I think the foundation of human creativity in general, it is based on that we are humans and that we can develop ideas and stories and identities. And I think that that's very valuable. It's almost like we cannot put money into it. But as we know, like Marnie said, we live in a capitalist world and societies, And I think that a lot of people are gonna are going to have to think about, like how can I make the most with this? Like I'm a traditional artist, I can do a book, but I can also use AI. And I think that's where we need to balance out and also become relevant with what it is right now, and that's what it is. So I think let's just continue doing the traditional art, because that expands your whole creativity that you are being developed, as a human, but also as a whole. And I think that AI is just a resource. It is a tool that we can use.
And I want to throw this to Lucy, because you're a futurist. Because when I think about AI, I think about the electronic keyboard, which can do every instrument and has changed music, since the 80s when synthesizers arrived. Did the electronic keyboard kill instrumentalists, or did it just add something new? Do you see AI as something that we can just hold at bay forever, or is it something that we need to adapt, and in 20 years this is just the way it is, and it's creating new jobs maybe?
I don't know, really. I can't predict the future, but one thing, as you guys were talking, a piece of memory keeps on coming back to me, which is back in the days when digital publishing just came out. I talked to a friend of mine who's a publisher, and I said, "Are you worried? Are you worried about the industry and your business?" Because digital publishing means people can, publish a lot of things, and they're going to be available on the internet. They can download it. They're not going to go to the bookstore and buy, paper books. He said, "I am worried about my industry to some extent, because the market is going to shrink, because, people can get free access to digital things. But I'm not worried about my business, because I will focus my business on the things that digital publishing cannot achieve. I will produce books that are coveted, they're beautifully designed, things that you want to keep for years, you want to hold in your hands, you want to smell it, you want to touch every page, and you want to look at the beautifully printed illustrations in there with texture. You're going to treat it very differently from digital books that you can find online that are, bootleg copies of real things." And that opinion of his really stuck with me all these years. And when we talk about AI, that idea came back so much to me. And we're talking about being artists, we're talking about being creatives, being humans. And there's this fear about being replaced by AI. I wonder if we can apply what he said to this and really look at it as we will need to, and we will be able to focus more on what makes us uniquely human. And art is definitely a huge part of it. Real art cannot be generated. There's gonna be people in the market who want to buy those, but there's still gonna be people who see the value in what real artists can do, human artists can do, and treat it differently. And I believe in it. I hope I'm right, and I think that's what I would potentially advise my daughter, who is now 5, and her dream is become an artist. I will advise her to stick with what's true to her heart, her soul, her spirit, her heart, her own creativity, and go from there. Whether or not she uses AI to make a draft or as a tool, just like we started to use Photoshop years ago. That's her choice. But yeah, I think there's something that's so uniquely human because of our messiness, our lived experiences, the fact that we're all gonna die. This life is limited. That provides so much more love and heart and spirit into what we do. That's not something AI can easily replicate.
Okay. That's our time. It's 4:30. We have one more question. One more question. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's true that companies are doing that they're investing in AI instead of like investing in real artists. But my argument towards that is that people know when something's AI, and people on the internet are actively going against it. When they see an AI image, there's artists out there that recreate it, and they're like, wow, look, this is better, and people agree. And I feel like that is concerning. However, I feel like because of all this AI stuff that's happening right now, people find that real art is more valuable now because of it. And that's why there's so much indie art happening right now. I mean, there's like, you go on YouTube, you can find like free pilots of animation. And that's difficult. And it's getting so much support that it's going in like theaters right now. So I feel like that alone should inspire so many artists to not give up and to continue, because obviously real art is going to stay.
And I think that's a great way to end it.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
I
great
think
way
so
to end
too.
it. I want to thank the panelists. Thanks, Lucy, for joining us over Zoom. Thanks, JC. Thanks, Ace.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
If you want to stick around and talk to them, you can. Enjoy the rest of the STEAM event, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello. I wanted to ask you a question.